Okay, so first, I think what we need to do is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Does anyone want to put forward a motion? Sorry, Daniel, you're okay. So I'm getting Daniel is putting forward the motion. I see Lori is seconding. So we've got an approval of the minutes. Perfect. So I think that brings us up to business then. Yes, Lindsay.
Sorry, Chair, you just have to call the motion. Just ask if it's approved, all approved.
Oh, sorry, right. So is it approved by everyone?
Aye.
Yep. Okay. I think we're good. Okay, Megan. There we go. Megan. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've got full approval because I'm assuming, Daniel, if you forwarded, then you're also approving. Okay, great. So I think now, sorry, everyone, I'm still getting used to this. Now I think we move forward with our next order of business, which is why we're meeting today, which is to discuss the severance and minor variances for property south side of Prescott Center Drive. As Lindsay.
Sorry, Chair, there's, so we've just done approval of the agenda. There's still declaration of interest and approval of the minutes. I think you got those two motions mixed up. So item number 3 is the declarations of interest. Do you see that?
Okay, sorry. I'm like, okay. I can't find my, oh, sorry. Okay, I found it. Does anyone have any declarations of interest to,
None.
yeah, does anyone, none? None? Okay,
No.
so we can move forward. Thank you so much. Now we have the approval of minutes. Sorry about that. I'm following. Okay, so we've accepted those, and now we can move on to the agenda items. 5.1 staff report.
Sorry,
Yes.
Chair. You haven't, so the motion is that the Committee of Adjustment minutes dated March 17th, 2022 be accepted as presented. So you had a mover and a seconder for the approval of the agenda. You need a mover and a seconder for this motion.
So moved.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. It's all right.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll second.
I see. So all we do is approve the agenda first. Sorry. It's because I went right to the minutes. You're right. Okay. So first, sorry, people, I started off with the approval of the minutes, but we're actually approving the agenda. If anyone wants to do take backsies, I don't know if you're allowed. But okay. So now we've called to order, approved the agenda. We've gone over our declarations of interest. Now we've just approved our minutes.
Yep. You just have to call the question. All in favor of it.
All in favor of approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. So I've seen everyone approve the minutes. Perfect. Okay, wonderful. So just out of curiosity, like we just need like 4 out of 5 or whatever, 3 out of 5 to approve the minutes. Okay, just it's rule of majority. Thank you. Okay, so now we can move on to the agenda items, which is staff report 03-2022, severance and minor variance for property south side of Prescott Center Drive. And as Lindsay reminded us today, we did already discuss a minor variance for this property before, where we approved, not unanimously, but approved the going beyond the regular square footage of the building. So today we're discussing severance of the properties associated with this development. So Sean, sorry, Mr. Merriman, would you like to give us a sort of a summary of the variance in question?
I could, but I do believe Matthew's taking care of this one today.
Okay, thank you.
Through you,
Please
Madam
proceed,
Chair.
Mr. CEO. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So what we have in front of us today is a severance application, and it's to take the lot that's currently on the south side of Prescott Center Drive and to split it into 3 lots. As mentioned earlier, this was a condition of the previous minor variance that it be severed. And so that's what we're working on today. So in the end, there would be 3 lots made out of the current 1 lot. And when we take a look at the lands furthest to the east, there is a small strip there. It would become an unbuildable land area and actually act as a good buffer to the residential houses. The Dollarama property, which we've previously looked at and reviewed in terms of the minor variance, and then all of the lands to the west of the Dollarama development, which would end up being approximately 0.8 of a hectare. Now, the reason why we require minor variance in this case is that in the intention of the zoning bylaw is that developments would be the size of 2 hectares. And this entire lot was 2 hectares before the McDonald's property, which is furthest to the west, was taken out of it. And so we're now divvying up the remaining part of the lands. And so that's really what we're discussing this evening. So from a context of the official plan allows severance to occur where you're creating 2 new lots and remaining 1. When you take a look at the reference plan that has been produced, there's a lot of easements in the area to account for the fact that there is lines running from McDonald's over to Mackenzie to be able to have their water and sewer, as well as there's lines coming south from Canadian Tire and Independent Grocer to be able to hook into water and sewer as well. And so it's a fairly complicated with a number of parts in there. But if you take a look at the more simple diagram, then get a good feel for what is going to look like. So from a zoning bylaw compliance perspective, it does fit within the official plan guidelines of being able to sever this lot from a zoning bylaw. The requirement is to have 2 hectares per lot. Because this started out as 2 hectares and now we're splitting it off into smaller developments, it still maintains the overall intention of both the official plan and the minor variance or in the zoning bylaw, because it was to create an overall area where commercial activity could occur. And that's been achieved by the McDonald's, the Ultramar, the Canadian Tire, Independent Grocer, Dollarama, and then that last vacant lot is the 0.8 of an acre. We have confirmed that the 0.8 remains a buildable lot so that you'd be able to still maintain the setbacks required. And so from when we go through the 4 tests of looking at whether it's a minor variance or not, does it fit within the overall nature of the official plan? And the official plan would say, yes, we're achieving what we're trying to envision for that area of creating a commercial area of development. It looks at the building or zoning bylaw to be able to say, are you able to still maintain buildable lots? Which the intention is that 0.8 is still buildable. And then is it minor in nature? And when we take a look at it from a minor in nature's perspective, we're not looking at necessarily numerical calculation. We're looking at, does it still allow for building to occur? Does it still allow for that development? And does it fit in with the overall makeup of that area? And so it's our belief that it does meet the definition of minor. And certainly we have, when we discuss the Dollarama development, making sure that we have appropriate separation from a sound perspective and the light perspective from the residential. So really the only new lot that's being created is that 0.8, which is further away from the residential. And then again, appropriateness of the overall. So the proposed variances facilitate the development on the vacant commercial property, and it provides employment opportunities, which is also one of the goals of the official plan. So in conclusion, we feel that the application, both from a severance and minor variance perspective, are supportable, and that's why we recommend bringing it forward for passage, as well as the three conditions. One, that any balance of, or the balance of any outstanding taxes, penalties, and interest be paid to the town of Prescott. The approval of the variances is granted and fixed of the general size and location of the extent of what we're talking about this evening. And an acceptable reference plan and legal description is submitted to the town and consequently submitted to the land registry office for it to be taken into effect. So more than happy to answer any questions. And I know we have a number of interested parties this evening from the neighboring properties. And so more than happy to address anything from them as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Matthew, Mr. Armstrong. I am going to open it up for questions in a moment, but also for speaking, we'll hear from the guest participants today. But first, I just had a question. What is the plan then for the easternmost part of the property that is going to be severed, that isn't going to be buildable? What's the plan? Are they giving that to the town, or I just don't understand the point of the severance for that part.
So it's a piece of land. At this point, there's no plan there's no ability to build on it because you wouldn't be able to meet setbacks. And so it would just, at this point, our understanding, remain vacant and provide for that buffer between commercial activity and the residential lots.
So they just want to hold on to ownership that's separate from the current
Correct.
land?
Mhm.
Interesting. That's interesting because they paid $250 for the application to sever that parcel, right? $250 per severance?
This was all one severance, so it was $250 across all three.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay. Did anyone else have any questions? We're going to open it up to the guests, but did anyone else have any just like technical pressing questions? And then we'll open up to the guests, and then is it okay if then I bring it back to the committee for discussion? I would like to have lots of questions around this just because, okay, great. So did anyone else have any technical questions to raise at this moment?
I was just kind of wondering again on that eastern portion, is there anything at all that can be done with that, or is it just going to remain wild and undeveloped?
So our understanding at this time is it's just going to remain vacant. And as I mentioned, it does provide a nice buffer from that commercial to the residential to the south.
Right, but is there any possibility later on in the future of developing something there? I'm just kind of curious to see down the road what may happen to that piece of land.
So in terms of being able to build on it, there's no way to put a building on it that would meet the setback requirements. So it would act as just a natural buffer.
Okay. What about the land to the west? Because that seems to be, I think when I drove by, there seemed to be like a stream or some water flow from in that area.
So eventually, we haven't received any development applications or an idea of what that would look like. There's nothing that's been submitted to the town on that. As part of any future development, it's not an official stream or anything like that, but they are required to do a grading and drainage plan, which would then kind of alleviate those water issues as they develop it.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Lori, you had a question?
I do. Now, my first question is the confirmation that that lot on the east side is not buildable, which is what I understand from the discussion. My question is it a possibility that the landowner or whoever purchases that property because it's being severed will they then in the future, is it possible that they may ask for minor variance on the setback like this owner has done on the current property where the Dollarama will be?
So based on my calculations, it's approximately 15 to 20 meters in depth. And so there's no way that you could put a building and meet the front and rear setbacks. So it's not something that the town would support in building on that lot.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. Now, I'm sorry, that was my only question, I believe, that I had. Yes, thank you.
I have
Okay.
another
I
question.
have a
You've got a question, Megan? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering, with severing those into 3 lots, the 2 more western lots, the proposed Dollarama site, and then the western one makes sense as a commercial lot. But once the east piece is severed off, how would that affect property taxes and the designation of intended use for the land? Would it change the tax structure?
Not from what it is today. Today, it would be commercial vacant land. It would continue being commercial vacant land. And it truly is an unbuildable lot. So not something that, that's going to change the value one way or the other, or the tax class.
Okay, I wasn't sure with not having a building on it for sure and being its own piece, if that would change the category it fit into, so.
And I have
Okay.
another question. If the severances are denied, has the builder maxed out what they're allowed to build then on that lot?
No. So if it was denied, they can still proceed with building. There's still more space, in particular on that 0.8 area. This is just a housekeeping item to designate the Dollarama area, designate the vacant land to the west, and then create that part to the east that then kind of solidifies in the future that it couldn't be built on.
And then to Megan's question, I understand that there is a vacant land or something tax coming in. I don't know if it would affect us. So are they discussing donating that piece of land to the town, or they're really just going to hang on to a vacant piece of land? I'm just curious. I'm really confused by that.
So,
by this.
so there's a number of landowners that hold on to small pieces. They haven't had that discussion with the town to be able to look at that. In the future, if we're looking at doing pathways and things like that, we might approach them to be able to say, is that an area that we could use for that? But certainly there's been no discussion to date, and it's not generally in the developer's nature to donate parts of land, but certainly it's something that we can look at for a betterment type of thing.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'd like to open it up then to any of the guests that are here today. Did anyone have any things they would like to say or questions they'd like to ask?
Hi, Sandra. It's Joanne Pickavet. Thank you, Matthew, for answering my questions. One of the questions I actually had regarding that, it's a very small piece of land and it's pie-shaped. So it's very narrow at one end and it widens. So Matthew, I'm not sure when you say 15 to 20 meters, is that the widest part? Or is
Absolutely.
that, yeah, so it's a pie shaped. Think of it like a really narrow, and at present it's the property owners. We are taking care of that land. I know I pay to have it mowed. Weedman comes in and does all the necessary work. And I believe next to us, right down, it's the property owners that are not the current property owners, but the residents who are maintaining that land. And one of the questions I had for Matthew was, is there the possibility of the current property man to donate it to the residents so that they can use it and continue Obviously, there would be tax implications to that, but we are taking care of it now. They're not responsible, the town's not. And that swale drainage is pretty dumpy looking. I think every kid that walks by there dumps their garbage in, and we do try to keep it clean. And that was the other question. So regarding that pilot, that was something that I think that we are very interested in, to see if there's any opportunity for the residents to be able to, they may ask a ridiculous price for this small piece of land that's not usable, but that's one of them. The other question, Matthew, that I had was regarding the lease. It's my understanding that Dollarama is leasing the property off of the property owners, similar to Canadian Tire and the Independent. Are they, is there a commitment to lease that property for a period of time? Or let's say in 2 years, that from a budgetary perspective, it's not feasible for them to continue there. Can they just abandon, or are they required to lease that property for X period of time?
So I don't want to speak on behalf of the developer, but I'm just going to speak from my understanding of how it works. So generally in these types of situations, the property developer is responsible for building the building and then signs a long-term lease, which in the effect of over that lease, they recoup their cost of building the building. So, and if the lease is canceled prior to the end, then there is penalty clauses generally. And so that it's structured in a way that when a corporation makes that investment to sign a lease, that they're also, understanding the fact that they're slowly paying back the price of the building. But at the end of the lease, they don't own it. But in many cases, they continue on with that. So generally, their long-term leases 10 to 20 years. But certainly it's not something that the town has authority or jurisdiction over, but it's that agreement between the developer and the leasee. In terms of the piece of property and if they'd be willing to discuss that with the property owners, we're more than happy to make that introduction or to present that idea to them to see if that's something that they would entertain. We have no jurisdiction to force that.
No, I understand.
But we'd be happy to see if that's something they'd be willing to entertain.
Yeah, the one concern I have is we have enough vacant commercial property in Prescott that are just left empty. I just hate to see for this to be another one, but it will take the current residents that are living in the woods out.
Yes.
Anyways, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say, like, I actually thought that little strip was pretty nice in terms of plants and like the native vegetation that I saw in there. So, like, I actually thought that it had a green infrastructure function as well. Like, it's absorbing water. It's kind of down at the bottom of the residences. So when I look at it, from my eye, it looks to me like a good functioning strip. So, like, I agree, it's terrible that people look at that and see it as a waste receptacle or whatever I'm trying to say. But like, I would hope that we could somehow, if we're going to keep it sort of naturalized, I would hope that we could, make sure that it stays in good condition. And I don't know if that's something we can then kind of put in to the severance, but that they do keep it. I don't know what the language would be, but it would be something along the lines of like maintaining it in good condition, but at the same time naturalized with native vegetation as much as possible.
Well, thank you, Sandra. That's the property owners the residents who are keeping that up. So thank you. I hope you appreciate my trees. And
did you put those trees in?
I did.
Oh, they're beautiful. Yeah, no, it looks beautiful. You've done a great job.
You.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Karen and her daughter Molly have also put some beautiful flowers and whatnot in there. So we do our best. And that was the other question that I had asked of Matthew was, is there any way? Yes, it has to say a drainage swale there. It has to, because that's what we're draining into. But is there any way to be able to clean it up and make it more aesthetically pleasing? That was, and Matthew responded that he will approach the property owner to see if that can happen, because, and I also found out where the toads are coming from in our pool. That was a conundrum for me. Besides pulling out mice, voles, I was pulling out toads from the skimmer of our pool. And I thought, are they hopping from the St. Lawrence River? But apparently there are some ponds further to the east of us that they're coming from. I wouldn't be surprised if they're living in there as well. But it is quite, like you really have to take a closer look, Sandra, there's a lot of garbage in that swale.
Okay, well, thanks. Also, I don't know if you've seen, I know this is unrelated, just a quick note. I don't know if you've seen, but there are little ramps you can attach to your pool that animals can use to get out when they get trapped in. Just have a look. Okay, yeah, so I don't know what we can do about the garbage issue, but this is something hopefully we can address, and hopefully, I would like to add something then into the approval of the severance that that there is a commitment that those lands to the east be kept naturalized and that they be kept in good condition. And if a donation of the land needs to be made in order for that to happen, I don't see why that would work against them. But again, I know that's like, is that something that we are allowed as the committee to recommend?
I don't think the town has the authority to force that issue. However, we do have a new property standards bylaw, and I think that's where we can really affect the change there. So it's just something that came into effect on January 1st. And I think it obviously Sean Merriman's here, who's our manager of building and bylaw, and will therefore kind of take what's been said this evening and then make sure that we're enacting that by removing the garbage, by maintaining kind of that swale to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and that sort of thing. So I think if you're comfortable with that, then we will, from the town's perspective, make a commitment to making sure that we're actively pursuing that and making sure that it meets our property standards.
Sounds terrific. Well then, does anyone else, we have other guests, did anyone else have any issues of concern they wanted to bring up? Deborah, I see you've got your mic on.
I have a question just on the sound barrier going around Dollarama. I heard we're getting a sound barrier.
Yes, absolutely. So it was a requirement of the original minor variance.
Okay.
They have just submitted their noise study to us, and council was very clear that both the properties to the east and to the south need to be addressed from a sound perspective. And so that sound study is just in our peer review, and we are very well aware, and we've communicated very succinctly that needs that to the south as well as to the east, that both needs to be addressed. So there will be a sound barrier. We're just coming to an agreement on exactly the placement and its design, but it is absolutely a stipulation of the minor variance that was previously passed, as well as the site plan control.
Oh, great. So if they don't go through with it, do you have any recourse?
We do. So part of site plan control is that they're agreeing to a certain set of design that becomes part of the overall part and parcel of the development. As well, at the same time, we've communicated that we are requiring a security to ensure that if that doesn't meet the requirements of what the town agrees to, then the town will step in and ensure that the sound barrier is installed.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, fabulous. So does anyone else have any final questions or comments? Because I feel like everything we've discussed, that it's already going to be sort of taken and put into the motion the way we've sort of hoped it would be. So if no one else has any
I
further
do. I
questions.
have a question.
Oh, yes, go for
Um,
it. Fran.
The cement barriers that are there now, probably they will be removed. Do you know what you're going to put up to keep the local traffic out once the Dollarama's up?
So the intention is that we're going to put bollards both on to the north of what the path will be, as well as to the south, and so that will keep anyone from accessing it from a vehicular standpoint. We still want to make sure that people can use it from a walking standpoint or a mobile scooter, but we want to make sure that traffic does not access that area, and so that's very important to us.
Thank you. Do you know when the work is going to start on the Dollarama and when it finishes?
So our understanding is that they would like to get going in May, and their intention is to have it finished by September, or sometime in September. So that's currently the timing that we're working with, and we haven't been communicated anything different at this point. Just
one more question. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I know the 15-foot barrier wall, is that going up first, or is Dollarama being built first? So it will likely be towards the end of the development, simply because they have to make a lot of connections to the water, sewer, and storms. So they have to make all of those connections, then they start to put the building up, and then when they finish their landscaping and that sort of thing, that's when generally they put the sound wall up. So we expect it towards the end of closer to the end of the project, but it's also absolutely imperative from a staff perspective that that gets done before the opening day, and so that the residential properties to the south and to the east are not affected. Thank you, Matthew.
Matthew, just the last question. Have you given what's going to be the building times during the day? Or will they be starting at 7 in the morning till 7 in the evening?
That would be consistent with our noise bylaw, and we would want to ensure that they keep within those timings.
And just to inform me, Matthew, please, what's the bylaw for the noise time?
I believe for construction, it starts at 7 in the morning and is to be finished by 7 in the evening.
Yeah,
but maybe Mr. Merriman can correct me on that one.
I think Elaine and I are going to be the ones mostly affected, and this is not your problem, this is my problem. But the dirt that comes from there affects our air conditioner. I mean, the gentleman who services says, I've never seen anything as dirty. And it's the same thing as I found out with our east troughing. The dirt that grews up from the trucks and whatnot, and in the field coming in, and especially the side, because there are motorcycles that do go through quite often, usually at 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning. They come onto our property and it's just filthy. So this construction is going to affect greatly Elaine and myself, right? And I know there's really nothing that can be done, but yeah, 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm not a happy person. Anyways.
Thank you for answering those questions, Matthew. This wasn't the purpose of this meeting, but I figure, we might as well let the citizens express their concerns while we're all here discussing this property anyway. So thanks everyone for your patience. Okay, so I think I'm good to put forward the motion to carry, or what am I saying of voting? Are we voting? Thank you, Lindsay. Please help me.
Chair, there is a suggested motion.
Okay.
So it should be item 5.1. Do you see that?
Yes. Okay. So
if you want to read that and ask for a mover and a seconder. Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah. So, so the recommendation is that the Committee of Adjustment approve the severance and minor variance with the following conditions. The balance of any outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, shall be paid to the town of Prescott. The approval of the minor variance is granted and fixed to the general size, location, extent, and design of the proposed development as described in this report. that the proposal, the severance be granted and an acceptable reference plan on legal description of the severed lands and the deed or instrument conveying the severed lands be submitted to the town. The site plan for the lands remaining be obtained within 1 year. And what we discussed today, number 5, will be that the severed lands be maintained within the property standards bylaw that was passed this year, something to that effect, where lands are kept naturalized and functioning as well as cleaned up, something to that effect. Yes.
So I'm not sure that we can add that as a condition, but it is the commitment of staff to enforce the property standards bylaw on.
Okay,
on
fair
facilities.
enough. Fair enough. So we cannot, okay, but it's our understanding. I mean, we're passing this under the understanding, I know at least 2 of us, under the understanding that this is going to be maintained naturalized as is described in this report. Correct?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay. So does anybody want to carry this forward? Do I have a mover?
I move.
Great, thank you. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, great. So we can take a vote now. Is everyone in favor? I'm in favor.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, you and Craig, so you said aye?
I did.
Okay, great. So we have consensus, all 5 members, and I think that's everything then. So, yeah, okay. Yes, Lindsay. Oh, I have to move to close the meeting, right?
There is a portion for new business, if any member of the committee has any new business, and then, yeah. Then there's
Okay,
the adjournment.
new business, new business, anyone? No, I need to read the handbook better, apparently. Okay. Okay, so, and I don't know if the period for media questions is necessary. No, we have no media. All right, so does I move to adjourn? Am I allowed to? No, I have to ask if anyone wants to move to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, wonderful. That was Craig. And a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Megan seconds, and I think, do we need an agreement? I think we all agree. Yeah, great. Okay, thanks so much, everybody. And thanks to everyone who came out to participate and provide your feedback and input on this matter as well. Until next time.